So picture this. The end of the world has arrived. The sky hasn't fallen, zombies aren't clawing through your window, and no, aliens aren't here to beam you up. The real battle? It's not out there. It's in here, in your head. I'm Captain Cabbage, your sarcastic guide to the end times. And today, I'm not handing out shopping lists of survival gear. Nope. I'm handing you a mirror. Because when the world ends, your biggest enemy isn't the hungry mob or the empty shelves. It's your own brain. And trust me, your brain, it's a backstabbing little traitor. Let's begin. The blackout hits without ceremony. At first, it feels ordinary. You've lived through outages before. Storms knock down lines, substations trip. A few hours, maybe a day, and it all comes back. That's how the story usually goes. So you wait. You fidget with your dead phone, pressing the button over and over like it might suddenly resurrect out of guilt. You glance at the fridge and reassure yourself, it'll click back on soon. This is denial, but not stupidity. Psychologists call it normalcy bias, the brain's refusal to accept that the future could look any different from the past. It's the same instinct that made Titanic passengers sip tea even as the ship tilted. The same instinct that had families in Chernobyl standing on rooftops watching the glowing reactor as if it were a fireworks display. People cling to routine while disaster unravels around them because admitting the truth feels impossible. So you light candles. Your neighbors step outside, chuckling. Someone suggests a cookout. The meat will spoil anyway. And suddenly it feels like a holiday. Kids run with sparklers, adults swap beers, dig out dusty board games, joke about how soft everyone has gotten without Wi-Fi. Someone says, "We needed this, a break from screens." It feels safe because it feels familiar. But the clock is ticking. Every hour spent laughing by the fire is an hour you could be filling bathtubs with water, raiding the pharmacy for antibiotics, hunting down candles before the stores are stripped bare. You don't. You keep waiting for the hum of electricity to return. But when the fridge stinks of rot, when the taps spit air, when the street outside is darker than you've ever known, denial finally cracks. And something worse rushes in. It doesn't creep, it slams. The milk is sour, the meat is spoiled, the last ice cubes melt into cloudy puddles. Your chest tightens, hands tremble, thoughts scatter. Rationality is gone, shoved into a corner while your lizard brain floods your veins with adrenaline. This is the amygdala hijack, panic taking the wheel. Fight, flight, or freeze. You rush to the store, but it's too late. The shelves are stripped, the good stuff, canned food, bottled water, batteries, medicine, gone in hours. What's left is madness. A man shovels bags of chips into a cart like it's gold. A woman clutches melting ice cream. Someone waves a platinum credit card at a dead register, shouting like money still means anything. A teenager argues over the last pack of soda while behind them, a mother frantically grabs diapers. It's not strategy, it's desperation dressed as shopping. Step outside, and it's no better. Cars choke intersections, horns scream, drivers curse, no one moves. A minor fender bender blocks the road, and no one clears it. The city gridlocks into a monument of panic. You try a gas station. The pumps are dead. A man fumbles with a hose, trying to siphon fuel, coughing poison into the street. Another lights a cigarette too close, and everyone scatters. At the public fountain, a mob swarms. People shove with bottles and pots, arguing over who was first, who deserves more. A fight erupts. Someone pulls a knife. For a frozen moment, the crowd holds its breath, then surges, and in minutes the fountain runs dry. And it spreads, like it always does. After Hurricane Katrina, people trampled each other in grocery stores, stealing televisions, even though there was no power to run them. After the 1977 New York blackout, looting spread across 31 neighborhoods in hours. Panic makes no sense because panic doesn't need to. And when you stagger back home clutching junk food and nothing useful, you realize the truth. Panic kills more than hunger or thirst. Trampled bodies in a mob,
A road rage fight over gasoline, a shattered skull in a grocery riot. Panic is the invisible disease of collapse. But panic burns itself out, and in the silence afterward, something colder grows.
The blackout stretches on. Days pass, maybe a week. Still no news, no sign of rescue. At night, the silence is crushing. No hum of traffic, no glow of the city, just darkness thick enough to smother you. You sit with the candle guttering low, ears straining. Every creak of wood, every scuff of gravel outside, every shifting shadow, your body reacts. Your skin prickles, your heart races. Were those footsteps? Whispering? Someone testing your lock? This is paranoia, born from the information vacuum. Humans can endure bad news. We adapt to hard truths, but what we can't endure is not knowing. So the brain fills in the blanks, and the blanks are always worse than reality. Rumors take root. Your neighbor insists it's terrorists. Another swears it's a government plot. Someone mutters about the EMP. Another whispers about the reset. Each rumor contradicts the last, but nobody cares. Rumors feed fear better than silence. And so, every window becomes a risk. You cover them. Every meal becomes a signal. You cook in silence, far from the door. Even laughter feels like a flare fired into the night. The paranoia isolates you. Streets empty, neighbors stop visiting. Each family sits in darkness, convinced the others are plotting. This isn't new. In Sarajevo, during the siege of the 1990s, families cooked in silence, terrified that the smell of food would draw fire or looters. During the Blitz, blackout curtains weren't just for bombers. They kept neighbors from knowing who still had resources. Paranoia is universal when trust collapses. And now, it's in you. The knock on the door isn't a friend, it's a bait. The flicker of light in the distance isn't a family cooking, it's a trap. Paranoia in small doses keeps you cautious. Too much, and it poisons you. You start seeing threats everywhere, even where none exist. And the cruel irony is that while paranoia tells you to stay alone, your survival depends on the opposite. But you don't know that yet. All you know is the silence. And the silence is eating you alive.
At first, solitude feels manageable, almost a relief. No endless email notifications, no phones buzzing, no deadlines, just quiet. But the quiet grows heavy. Days blur together. You forget how long it's been since you spoke to another human being. You catch yourself whispering out loud just to hear a voice. You laugh at a thought, then repeat it aloud, then answer yourself. You give your beans names. You thank your flashlight when it works. You apologize to the spoon you drop. It sounds absurd, but loneliness is not a joke. It's a biological weapon. Prolonged isolation spikes cortisol, the stress hormone that eats away at sleep, immunity, even memory. Explorers trapped in the Arctic wrote journals full of imagined conversations with people who weren't there. Sailors adrift at sea described hearing voices in the waves. Prisoners in solitary report hallucinations so vivid they struggle to separate memory from invention. And here you are, talking to shadows. Without others, you begin to slip. You forget to boil water. You neglect cuts that fester. You gamble on risky shortcuts because there's nobody to argue you down. You take chances because you don't care if you don't wake up. The cruelest part of collapse isn't hunger or thirst. It's the emptiness of silence stretching into forever. And so you're trapped in a paradox. You need people to stay sane, but paranoia whispers that people will kill you. So you hover in the middle, desperate for voices, terrified of them. And each day alone, the silence carves a little more from you.
The silence can only last so long. Eventually, you hear it. Voices. A fire somewhere nearby. The faint smell of smoke carried on the wind. Your first instinct is to hide. Paranoia whispers, stay alone, stay invisible, stay safe. But the loneliness gnaws at you. So one night, you step into the glow. A handful of survivors huddle around a weak flame. Faces are gaunt, but alive. You sit among them, the warmth of their voices washing over you like water after a drought. This is what the brain has been begging for: connection. Humans are wired for groups.
Even in collapse, we gravitate back together because isolation isn't survival, it's erosion. But groups are messy. Cooperation doesn't just happen. It's carved out of fear, hunger, and stubborn pride. In the lucky camps, people remember what they were good at. The mechanic starts fixing tools and wheelbarrows. The woman who sewed clothes patches tents. A retired nurse boils instruments in rainwater, her hands steady despite the shake. Someone chops wood. Someone filters water. Someone teaches the kids to tell time by the sun. It's not heroism, it's repetition. But that rhythm becomes comfort. Routine is the first fragile form of civilization. Soon, unspoken rules appear. Don't hoard food. Don't waste water. Don't show up empty-handed. Break them, and you're not selfish, you're a threat. Because survival isn't about strengths, it's about predictability. But not every camp manages it. Some rot from within. Missing rations become whispers, whispers become blame. One man claims leadership by shouting the loudest. He guards supplies like a throne. Fear spreads. By dawn, the camp is tense. Everyone gripping something heavy. One argument over bread ends in blood. That's social collapse in miniature. Trust is currency, paranoia is inflation, and once trust is gone, everything else burns with it. Still, people rebuild. They always do. Soon, barter returns. Clumsy, suspicious, necessary. In a cracked parking lot, blankets become stalls. A jar of salt beside a dull knife. A handful of aspirin, a spool of wire, a lighter. Someone trades a hammer for honey. Someone else swaps dried apples for a candle stub. Each deal is cautious, eyes flicking, hands half withdrawn. But for a moment, it feels like the old world again. You see it every time disaster hits. After Japan's 2011 earthquake, strangers shared food before aid arrived. In Iceland's 1973 eruption, neighbors rebuilt homes from ash. Even during medieval plagues, small clusters of families kept each other alive just by refusing to give up. Humans always drift back to connection, not because it's noble, but because it's necessary. Alone, you starve. Together, you stand a chance. And that's the cruel truth. Other people are your lifeline, but they're also the sharpest knife you'll ever carry.
Survival doesn't just test your body, it tests your values. One evening, a stranger appears at the edge of camp. Their cheeks are sunken, lips cracked. They beg for food. You have 3 cans of beans, enough for 3 days if rationed. If you share, it's 2. If you refuse, they may not survive the night. Do you hand over a can or keep it? And if you share, who in your group quietly resents you for it? Another day, someone collapses on the road. They're coughing blood, gasping for help. You want to stop, but the group murmurs about disease, about wasting resources. Do you risk it or walk away? If you stop, you could bring danger back to camp. If you don't, you'll carry that face with you into every night. And one night, a fight breaks out. Someone tries to steal food. In the scuffle, you lash out with a pipe. The body falls. You tell yourself it was defense, it was necessary, but the image doesn't leave you. Another test comes when you stumble across a body in an abandoned house. Their pack lies beside them: food, medicine, tools. Maybe they died yesterday, maybe an hour ago. Maybe they're not fully gone. Do you take it? You tell yourself they don't need it anymore, but when you lie down at night, you hear their breathing. Wonder if they were still alive when you reached for their bag. Survival asks you not only what you'll fight for, but what you'll steal, and from whom. These moments leave scars you can't see. Psychologists call it moral injury, the wound carved when you act against your own values. It's not what happens to you that haunts you. It's what you do to others. Soldiers know this. Doctors in disaster zones know it. Survivors of famine, siege, and war know it. And now you do. At night, the memories replay. The child you refused, the stranger you abandoned, the eyes of the man you struck.
your brain builds a prison of guilt, locking you in with ghosts. In collapse, you don't just fight for food and water, you fight the slow erosion of who you thought you were.
Time grinds forward. Weeks blur into months. The chaos doesn't stop, but it dulls. You wake with the sunrise, someone checks the water barrels, someone boils what was gathered overnight. Children gather sticks, adults scavenge wood. The rhythm repeats until it feels inevitable. It doesn't feel like victory, it feels like drudgery. But routine is an anchor. It convinces your brain there's still order, even when the world is broken. So days get marked on a wall. The journal fills with scratches. Weeks are counted by chores completed. Food grows again. Gardens sprout where lawns used to be. Roofs sprout rain collectors. Compost piles stink behind houses. A neighbor who once sold real estate now teaches seed germination. Someone else experiments with drying apples in the sun. And slowly, trade returns. Salt for bandages, honey for firewood. Antibiotics are priceless miracles. A lighter can buy bread. News itself becomes currency. Who has what? Which road is blocked? Which scavenging trick worked? It feels absurd at times, but absurdity is survival. In post-war Europe, people traded cigarettes for medicine. In besieged Leningrad, gardens sprouted between craters. In Sarajevo, people risked sniper fire to fill water jugs from fountains. Humans adapt, because the alternative is death. And with adaptation comes humor. You nickname the cinder block stove the community kitchen. You call the chalkboard covered in scribbles the internet. You joke that your dirt-stained boots are apocalypse chic. The laughter is ragged but real, and it matters. Psychologists call it a coping mechanism. Survivors just call it a reason to keep going. This isn't triumph, it's acceptance. But from acceptance, something unexpected stirs. Hope doesn't arrive in grand speeches. It arrives quietly. The first time a child laughs without fear. The first fresh vegetables from a garden. The first night you hear music drifting over the camp. Someone strumming, someone singing. Not nervously, just because they want to. And then one night you look up, and the stars blaze across the sky. Brighter than you've ever seen. Galaxies stretch overhead. They were always there, hidden by neon and noise. Now they're revealed, sharp and endless. For a moment, it feels like the world hasn't ended. It's just changed its mask. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, the paradox where suffering creates resilience, deeper meaning, even gratitude. It doesn't erase grief. The scars remain, but it transforms how you carry them. So the seasons return. Spring means planting. Summer means tending. Autumn means harvest. Winter means strategy and rationing. The old rhythms of civilization, but slower, rawer, harder. Festivals creep back. A harvest feast with shared bread. A planting day marked with songs. Names of the dead carved into wood so they aren't forgotten. Stories swapped by firelight. Some true, some already exaggerated into legend. And then there are the stories told to children. They ask questions their parents can't answer. What was television? What was Wi-Fi? Why did people stare at glowing screens all day? The answers blur into myths. Some laugh, others sigh. And sometimes parents invent softer versions of the old world, just to give their children dreams instead of ghosts. And slowly, new legends take root. The miracle harvest, the great barter, the time a stranger shared medicine. Hope survives in stories long before it survives in fields. Civilization limps forward, stubborn as weeds. Children learn letters scratched in charcoal. They learn to wash their hands, to boil water, to plant seeds. Culture mutates, but it survives.
And one morning, a child asks what a router is. You laugh, because you haven't said the word in months. You don't feel better, you feel steady, which in this world is better than better.
So, what did we learn? That hunger is hard. Thirst is harder. But the real battlefield is your mind. Denial wastes time. Panic burns it. Paranoia isolates you. Loneliness hollows you. Groups test you. Choices scar you. But routine drags you forward. Adaptation hardens you. And hope, fragile, absurd, stubborn, keeps you alive. Because in the end, the apocalypse doesn't just strip away comfort. It strips away illusions. And what's left is you.